Hello, everyone. This is Coach Smith. Wanted to take just a short little bit to update everyone on cross country for this fall. Wanted to pass along some important information that I felt like everyone should know about this time before we have a probably a bigger parent slash athlete meeting that would take place after the start of the school year, which is quickly approaching us in about a week and a half. And as you know, with COVID going on currently, things at school will look drastically different than it has in the past regarding just everyday life, how classrooms are done and conducted, and also in regards to athletics. So the first couple of things I want to talk about has to deal with our fall cross country schedule. And for now, the current schedule that I previously shared out on Facebook is the current schedule for now. And if you did not see that schedule previously on our Facebook group page, I will repost that and share that once again with everyone. Regarding the schedule for the fall, the name of the game is being flexible. And boy, that's going to be something that's going to really be our motto for this school year with COVID-19 is be flexible, because there's going to be times where things are probably looking good, things are probably chaotic. So we've just got to be flexible. So that brings up the question, with COVID-19, what kinds of things would look different for us, possibly for fall cross country? Well, in regards to our schedule, uh, many of our meets may change more than one time as far as where we may go for a meet. So we've got to be flexible with uh, our schedule. And so I'm going to ask everyone that's parents, athletes, on your part to also please be as flexible as you can be with our schedule, because it may change at a moment's notice sometimes due to some unforeseen circumstance. Another thing about our schedule is that I want to let you know is that we may end up having to take more than one group to one meet and then another group elsewhere on the same day. And the reason for that is under the guidelines by the health department, for you to be able to host a cross country meet, there are certain guidelines that you have to take in order to ensure public health safety. And so I'll talk a little bit more about this coming up in a few minutes. But one of the big changes is going to be the size of meets. And so it may be a situation where we can't run all of our runners at the same meet. And so we look at taking another group, splitting them in half, and having to use two different meets to get our athletes, runners, competition for that particular week. Now, this is also something that must be school approved. This is not, we don't have just the freedom to say, hey, we can't run everybody at this meet. There's another meet someplace else. Let's just go over there. Well, it's got to be school approved first. So if the school says we can only take so many runners to one particular meet, then that's what we have to follow. Also, with our schedule, there may be a possibility where a meet that we're currently planning to attend has to close and not have their meet. And so it may be a situation where we set up a small dual meet where we compete against one other school, or maybe it's just two other schools at a neutral location. It may be that we go to another school that's hosting and compete at their location. So that might be an option that we use to get some competition time in for runners if needed. And again, this must be school proof. We can't just call up another coach or another school and say, "Hey, let's have a dual meet together." It's got to be set up again. Number one, for health safety, and number two, it's got to be school proof. Lastly, with the schedule, just want to say that we're going to try to get as many meet opportunities as possible for our runners. Some of our bigger important meets, if it's a situation where, again, we can only run so many runners, we can't go someplace else on that particular week. If it's a bigger meet, we're going to treat it as a bigger meet. And so our top group is going to be picked to run and compete in that particular meet. This is actually nothing new, especially on the senior high level. As many of you know, the senior high state meet, we are limited to a certain number of runners. And so just about every year we have both guys and girls on both teams who don't get to run the state meet because that's just a rule of the meet, is that you can enter and run so many runners at that meet. And so the rest of the runners have to be there as a team fan support for the group that's getting to run and compete for the school that day. So, next item is talking about bus travel to meets coming up. COVID-19 definitely affects bus travel. So currently, the guidelines we have to follow for bus travel, and these could change, but currently we're only allowed to take a bus and have one runner per seat with a face mask on at all times in that particular seat. Okay. Now, that's going to limit the number of runners that we're able to take to particular meets. Normally, we have about 3 buses that we are able to use, so that allows us probably can't give the exact number. It kind of depends on the size of the bus, but however many seats are on those 3 buses is probably going to be the number of runners that we're allowed to take to a meet. Something else that will be important and enforced that we have to follow is on bus rides. We have to have the kids sit in a seating chart, and this is for tracking purposes for COVID in case an athlete is sick or comes down positive with COVID. Then we need to be able to track who that student came in contact with at school, at an athletic event, on a bus ride. We've got to be able to track that. And so there will be a seating chart that the kids will have to sit in. Also, with bus rides, the kids are going to be asked screening questions prior to getting on the bus to travel. Temperature is not taken. We have a standard set of screening questions. We use these for our practices currently. And so the athletes are going to be asked those screening questions before they even get on the bus. So if a athlete answers yes to any of those questions, they will not be allowed to get on the bus and go to the meet because they could be possibly a carrier of COVID-19. What this is going to result in, just something that I'm thinking of right now with the screening questions, is it's going to ask us to ask the runners to be at the buses ready to be screened a little earlier than normal for some of our meets. Give you an example. If we are going to the Cyclone Invitational at Russellville, which we typically go to, and if in the past we've normally asked the runners to be there at 6:10 a.m., they may be asked to be there at 5:50 a.m. in order to give us ample time to screen each runner, get them into the assigned seating chart set up, and then leave on time and get to the meet um, on time that we want to get there. So that's just something that we will have to adjust with coming up. This question, last point, question gets asked a lot by parents is if if the buses are full, can you take your student athlete in a car with you to a meet? The answer currently to that is no, you cannot. This is a school policy. This is not my policy. Uh, there are certain circumstances, such as if you're attending some kind of an event prior to the meet and you have to go from that event to the meet, and the athlete has to be obviously driven in a vehicle that is not a school vehicle. A administrator at the school must approve to let a parent take their student in that particular situation. But it's not going to be a situation where we're going to let a bunch of parents take students by vehicle, personal vehicles, to meets. Wish we could, but that's just the school policy that we currently have to follow in regards to travel to meets. Let's take a few minutes to talk about what meets are going to look like. Uh, Under the current guidelines of the Arkansas Activities Association, it's going to be quite interesting to run off a meet this fall. There's a lot of paperwork that has to go into it, and the Department of Health has to approve the size of the meet, the number of overall people who are in the competition area. That includes coaches, runners, volunteers, individuals running off the meet, and also spectators slash parents. So that's going to limit how many runners get to run at particular meets. When you get to a meet, the runners are going to be asked right now the same screening questions when they arrive. One of the things I'm working on is trying to get the AAA to consider taking the screening questions that coaches do prior to bus travel and giving a copy of those questions to the host site race director to save time from having to rescreen questions to runners all over again. And so that would help save a lot of time once runners arrive at meets. I don't know if that's going to happen or not, but that's just something that may be happening. Another thing with meets is very likely there's not going to be any big tent groups allowed like in the past. I know we usually have a big tent group. We could be assigned a designated team headquarter area. In the past, we've kind of picked our own place that was open for us to hang out and make as our team base for the meet. That may be taken away, and they say you have to Lake Hamilton. This is your particular space that you have to sit up at. So that might be something different. Also, runners are going to need to bring their own refillable water bottle. There are not going to be any cups allowed for distributing hydration to athletes. I believe some meets may not even allow the distribution of water or fluids after the race is over. So what I'm saying there is some of the meets we've gone to in the past have provided water to athletes. They may not do that, and so we may be totally dependent on the athletes bringing a refillable water bottle and then refilling that water bottle from our water coolers that we bring to the meets. Another thing that's going to look different is we're being asked to use staggered chip timing this fall. No longer lining everybody up on that one big starting line together in a big crowd. So that's going to take away the big line start. And so basically, the way races are going to look like they're going to work is the athletes will be put into a group of runners who have a similar um, time regarding the race distance that they're running, and they'll be flighted in these small groups. And then before the race starts, there is supposed to be holding boxes where athletes are about 6 feet apart in those holding boxes. And then when it's time for that group to start, they run across a chip mat. When the chip on their shoe or their race bib is read by the race mat, it starts their time. They run the race on the course. And then when they cross the finish line, the finish line mat gets the time for the athlete. And so basically, the athletes are, in a way, they're kind of still running a race against others, but it's kind of more going to be racing against the clock. So it's not going to be determined necessarily if I'm in group one and I finish first. That doesn't mean that I win the race. Somebody in a different group that starts 15 or 20 seconds behind my group may run a faster time than me, and so therefore they're declared the winner of the race. So all these groups are going to start at separate times, and then they're going to compile the runners' times together, and that will determine the placement in the race and also which teams finish in what place. And then the last thing that I hate to mention this is that be prepared for some meets to limit the number of fans/parents or not even allow them to be in the competition area at all. So I'm really not sure if spectators will be allowed at some of the meets. The number of fans and parents allowed goes into the overall figure that you have to turn into the health department. And the health department says that if you're having a cross-country meet, the competition area, whatever 66% of that competition area can hold in regards to spectators, that's the limit number of people that can be present in the competition area. And again, that's spectators, that's volunteer workers, that's the meet directors, that's everybody. So in order to get more runners competing, some of the meets may say we're going to only let so many fans and parents in, or they're not allowed at all. Next thing I would like to quickly talk about is what happens if there's another shutdown. We have to go home from school and there's no longer any face-to-face contact at school. Well, we don't want our cross-country runners to just go sit on the couch while we're at home. So we will continue to push our runners to train from home with a schedule that will be posted to Google Classroom for the runners, and also on our Facebook group. I'm planning to make a separate group just for workouts on Facebook for parents and athletes to view, and that way they'll be able to see those workouts and hopefully do those on their own from home and continue their development as a runner. Okay. And again, distance running it's a hard sport. It's a hard working sport. It's a step-by-step process. And the last thing that we don't want to happen is for our runners to not be taking those step-by-step processes that help make them a better runner. And so the best way to do that is to keep the ball rolling and keep that continuation of training taking place. And so if we go home face to face, we're going to be creative. We're going to get around that by asking the runners to do their best to do the workouts on their own from home and keep that momentum going that we already had established. One last quick thing, just a quick reminder for everyone. If you would, please take a few minutes to fill out both the medical history and drug testing forms that I previously posted on our Facebook team page as soon as you can. If you've already filled one of these out for another sport within the last few days, you do not have to do it again for cross country. And so what we're doing, what the school's doing, is not using the paper-based copies as in the past. This is much easier, much quicker. If you'll just take the time to update that information, sign the consent to the drug testing if you're a student runner on the drug testing form, that will automatically be recorded on a Google form document and will be turned in immediately to the athletic department. So I appreciate if you are watching this video, sitting through this and getting the update. Again, I wanted to give some quick updates so you could kind of know what kinds of things may be lying ahead for us with cross country. I'll keep you updated and posted on any other important information. And again, sometime probably within the next couple weeks after school gets started, we'll have some form of a parent meeting and share any additional information that needs to be passed on to those of you who are parents. I hope y'all have a blessed afternoon and evening. If y'all have any questions, please contact me or assistant coaches, Coach Brandon Starr or assistant coach Lewis Hunt. We'll be glad to talk with you and try to answer any questions that you may possibly have regarding cross country. So talk to y'all soon. Bye-bye.